Welcome to Mr. Phantom Channel, a place where spiritual mysteries and ghostly stories are unveiled. This is not for the faint of heart, but a doorway into another realm, a world where the shadows murmur the truth. If you're a fan of spine-chilling tales and the supernatural, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our haunting explorations. Get ready. The darkness holds secrets waiting to be discovered. Desert Phantoms in Redstone. In 2006, I decided to leave Las Vegas, where life had become chaotic due to stressful work and personal issues. I longed for peace and quiet, a fresh start. After some searching, I found a Spanish-style house in Redstone, a small town deep in the Nevada desert. The house sat on a dusty red road, about 10 minutes drive from the main town. Built in 1993, it had red tile roofing, cream-colored walls, and a spacious backyard overlooking the dusty mountains. It seemed like the perfect place to live with my two children, Glenn and Lisa, as well as our two pets, Sylvia, a black and white cat, and Max, a Doberman. However, from the very first days, the house began to reveal its strange nature. Unexplainable phenomena occurred frequently, turning what was supposed to be a peaceful retreat into a year of unrelenting fear. Sylvia was the first to sense something unusual. Every evening, she would sit at the entrance to the long hallway connecting the living room to the bedrooms, her eyes fixed on the dark void at the end of the hall, her ears alert, as if she were watching something invisible. I tried several times to see what she was staring at, but there was nothing, just empty darkness. Yet Sylvia remained focused, sometimes letting out a low growl, a sound that sent chills down my spine. On some nights, she would scratch at my bedroom door, meowing pitifully, as though begging to come in. I would always let her in, and she would immediately leap onto my bed, curling up beside me, trembling as though hiding from something. One day, Glenn, my son, walked into the kitchen with a disgusted look on his face. "Mom, did you leave some meat out? It smells awful," he said. I told him no, but he insisted there was a rotting odor, like spoiled meat. We searched every corner of the kitchen, checked the fridge and garbage, but found nothing that could cause the smell. The stench of raw, bloody meat would come and go unpredictably. Sometimes it lingered for days before disappearing completely, only to return a month or two later. Even Max, our dog, seemed agitated during these times, often growling or retreating to his bed when the smell appeared. It wasn't just the smell. We also began to hear strange noises at night. Heavy footsteps echoed across the wooden floors of the living room. Other nights, we heard knocking sounds coming from the hallway doors. But when we checked, no one was there. One morning, I noticed my hairbrush, which I was certain I had left in the middle of the sink, now resting on the edge. The toothpaste tube had also shifted positions. It was as if an unseen force was toying with our belongings. One evening, Lisa was jumping rope under the porch light. Suddenly, I heard her scream, a blood-curdling sound that made me drop everything and run outside. I found her rushing back into the house, pale and trembling. "What happened?" I asked, trying to stay calm. Lisa gasped for air, her voice shaking. She pointed to the roof. "Mom, there was something on the roof. It was huge, covered in fur, hunched over, and its glowing eyes. It was staring at me." I stepped out into the yard and looked up, but saw nothing except the dark, quiet night. However, the terror in Lisa's eyes was undeniable. She never played outside after sunset again. After so many bizarre events, I decided to investigate the house and its surroundings. I spoke to Walter, an elderly man who had lived in Redstone his entire life. When I mentioned the house, his expression grew grim. "You don't know about that place?" he asked. "The land where that house stands was once a burial ground for a native tribe. People say the spirits there were disturbed when they built homes. And then there's the couple who lived there in 1995. They disappeared without a trace." Walter's words sent a chill down my spine. The events in the house suddenly seemed connected to a dark and tragic past I hadn't known. One night, as we slept, I was awoken by the sound of heavy footsteps in the hallway. They were slow, deliberate, and growing louder as they approached my bedroom. Then, the doorknob rattled softly, as if someone was trying to open it. I froze, holding my breath. Suddenly, I felt a cold hand touch my shoulder. I screamed and turned on the light, but the room was empty. Sylvia was sitting on the bed, her fur bristling, hissing at something unseen. That was the final straw. The next morning, I made the decision we had to leave. After just 1 year in that house, I packed up my family and moved back to Las Vegas. I never returned to Redstone, and I refused to even drive past that road. But even now, memories of that house haunt me. There are nights when, lying in my new home, I swear I can still hear the sound of footsteps dragging down the hallway, as if a part of that house still lingers with me. The Whisper from the Mirror Portal. My name is Anna, and since I was a child, I've always felt I wasn't alone in my own house in a small lakeside town called Crystal Creek, Montana. When I was 4 years old, I often told my parents about a boy named Elijah who lived with us. At first, everyone thought he was just an imaginary friend. I blamed Elijah whenever toys went missing or strange ink marks appeared on the walls. But as I grew older, his presence became more evident. Not just a figment of imagination, but a real ghost who lingered in my life. As a teenager, my fascination with the paranormal and the spiritual world became an integral part of my life. I started researching ways to communicate with spirits, particularly through tools like spirit boxes and Ouija boards. Despite the mysteries surrounding Elijah, I never feared him. He always brought a sense of safety, like an invisible companion. When I turned 17, my parents decided to renovate the house and gave me my own room in the attic. It was a spacious room with slanted ceilings, a window overlooking the woods, and a small private bathroom. I was excited about this new space, but on the very first night, I realized there was something unusual about it. Even with 3 fans on their highest setting, the room felt oppressively hot. I tossed and turned in bed, unable to find comfort. When I finally drifted off, I woke up abruptly in the middle of the night, feeling as though someone was standing beside me, staring. I convinced myself it was just my imagination and went to the bathroom to wash my face. That's when I noticed something strange. 2 mirrors in the room, one on the vanity and another on the bathroom wall, were directly facing each other. From my research, I knew this was a bad omen. Placing 2 mirrors opposite each other could create a portal for spirits and entities to pass between worlds. I tried to calm myself and went back to bed, but from that night on, strange things began happening in my room. One rainy evening, I decided to use my spirit box to communicate with Elijah. The air outside was cool and damp, but inside my room, the oppressive heat remained. I placed the spirit box on my desk and turned it on. "Elijah, are you here?" I asked softly, my voice trembling with anticipation. A static-filled sound emerged, followed by fragmented words. "Lake, darkness, watching." Chills ran down my spine. "Are you watching me? Where are you?" I asked, The spirit box buzzed again, delivering another cryptic message. Earrings. Love. I froze. My favorite pair of earrings was sitting near the mirror in the bathroom, the exact spot where the two mirrors faced each other. You like my earrings? Thank you, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. The spirit box emitted another phrase, this time calmer. It's okay. I continued the conversation, hoping to learn more about Elijah's past. Why are you here? Can you tell me your story? I asked. Accident, water, night. The spirit box responded in fragmented words. A deep sense of sorrow washed over me. A car accident? I'm so sorry to hear that. Found Grandma Pat. Grandma Pat? Was she the driver? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. List, blue, sinking. Realization dawned on me. Did your car sink into the lake? Sally, Emma, flying, darkness. The spirit box revealed more names. Elijah hadn't been alone in the car. Kaylee, Matt. The device continued. You, Sally, Emma, Kaylee, Matt, and Grandma Pat were all in the car. I asked, my heart heavy with sadness. Yes, all of us. I felt an invisible weight pressing down on me. I'm so sorry your lives ended that way. It's okay. I'm fine. After the conversation, I researched the history of Crystal Creek and uncovered a chilling story. In 1986, a family was involved in a car accident at the lake. The vehicle, carrying Grandma Pat, her grandson Elijah, and 4 other children, veered off the road and sank into the water on a dark, rainy night. No one survived, though the incident was labeled a tragic accident. Locals whispered that the spirits of the children still wandered near the lake and the homes around it. The strange occurrences in my room became more frequent. Lights flickered, objects moved on their own, and the feeling of being watched grew stronger. I decided to close the mirror portal by removing one of the mirrors. However, every time I tried to move it, an invisible force seemed to hold me back. In a dream, I saw Elijah and the other children standing by the lake. Their faces were somber but not hostile. Elijah pointed toward the mirror portal, as if trying to tell me that it was the only thing tethering their souls to this world. One night, I turned on the spirit box for the final time. Elijah, I'm leaving soon. I hope you find peace, I said softly. The spirit box emitted a faint but clear response. Thank you. Remember us. I covered one of the mirrors with a white cloth and moved it out of the room. Instantly, the air in the room felt cooler and calmer, as if a heavy presence had lifted. I no longer felt Elijah's presence after that, but sometimes, when I visit Crystal Creek Lake, I hear faint laughter carried by the wind, echoes of the children who finally found freedom in the shimmering waters. The Smile That Haunts, a chilling tale from Canada. In the winter of 2015, my family moved into a new house in the quiet suburbs of Vancouver, Canada. The house was nestled in a peaceful neighborhood surrounded by towering pine trees, with a snow-covered street that seemed postcard perfect. As a 7th grader, I was both nervous and excited about starting a new chapter in this spacious 2-story house, which was much larger than our previous home. From the moment I stepped inside, something felt off. I couldn't quite pinpoint why, but the air in the house seemed heavy, and the faint creaks of the floorboards were eerily louder than they should have been. My parents were too preoccupied with unpacking and organizing to notice my unease. I convinced myself it was just nerves and pushed the feeling aside. The house had a small room on the 2nd floor that my dad referred to as the game room. It was furnished with an old couch, a small TV, and a few video games that my younger sister and I enjoyed playing on weekends, quickly became my favorite space to unwind, do homework, or watch historical videos on my phone. One winter evening, with snow lightly falling outside, I retreated to the game room after dinner. The couch was positioned near a small, square window that overlooked the backyard. The only light in the yard came from a distant street lamp, barely illuminating the dark expanse. Sitting comfortably, I started watching a video about medieval history on my phone. The night outside grew darker, and I became absorbed in the story on the screen. Then, out of nowhere, an unsettling sensation crept over me, a distinct feeling that someone was watching me. Unable to shake the feeling, I hesitated before glancing up at the window. What I saw froze me in place. Staring back at me was a face unlike anything I had ever seen. It was the face of a man, but it was horrifyingly unnatural. His skin was translucent, glowing faintly with a sickly green hue. His eyes burned bright red, like embers in the dark, and his mouth stretched into a grotesque smile that extended unnaturally wide, almost reaching his ears. But what terrified me the most was his neck. It appeared deformed, scarred with jagged lines, as though it had endured multiple failed surgeries. He didn't move. He simply stared at me through the window, his piercing gaze locking onto mine. My breath hitched, and I sat paralyzed with fear. When I finally found the courage to move, the man slowly tilted his head, his smile growing even wider. Then, as if pulled by an unseen force, he began to drift backward into the darkness, his glowing face fading away. I bolted from the game room, my heart pounding in my chest. My feet barely touched the stairs as I fled to the living room, where my mom was quietly reading a book. She looked up, startled by my sudden entrance. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" she asked. I couldn't bring myself to explain what I had just seen. How could I? It sounded impossible, like something out of a horror movie. "Nothing," I mumbled, trying to steady my voice. "I just got a little dizzy." That night, I barricaded myself in my bedroom, refusing to step back into the game room. Sleep was elusive, and the man's face haunted me every time I closed my eyes. I wanted to tell my parents, but I knew they wouldn't believe me. "It's just my imagination," I whispered to myself, though deep down, I knew it wasn't. In the days that followed, the house became a stage for a series of inexplicable events. Each incident chipped away at the fragile sense of safety I clung to. Late at night, I would hear faint knocking at the game room window. First, I thought it might be branches brushing against the glass, but the knocks were deliberate 3 taps, then silence, then 3 more. While brushing my teeth one evening, I caught a glimpse of a dark figure moving behind me in the bathroom mirror. I spun around, but the room was empty. On multiple occasions, as I passed by the game room, I noticed a faint green light emanating from the window. It was so subtle that I might have dismissed it, if not for the way it always sent chills down my spine. About a week after the initial sighting, the man returned. This time, I wasn't in the game room but in my bedroom, trying to sleep. A sudden, icy draft woke me in the middle of the night. To my horror, I saw that my window was slightly ajar, even though I distinctly remembered locking it before bed. Through the gap, I saw it again, the same face. His glowing eyes stared unblinkingly, and his lips moved, though no sound escaped. I strained to hear, and a faint, raspy whisper reached my ears. It was unintelligible, but it carried a weight of malevolence that made my blood run cold. Panicking, I slammed the window shut and pulled the curtains closed. I didn't sleep a wink that night, huddling under my blanket and praying for the dawn. The next morning, I finally mustered the courage to tell my mom about the man. To my surprise, she didn't dismiss my story outright. Her expression turned somber, and after a long pause, she confessed that she had heard rumors about the house before we moved in. According to local lore, the house had once belonged to a reclusive plastic surgeon named Dr. William Harker, obsessed with achieving perfection. He had conducted experimental surgeries on himself in the privacy of his home, but his obsession spiraled into madness, and he reportedly died in the house under mysterious circumstances. Some said his spirit lingered, forever trapped by his unfinished quest for perfection, desperate to rid the house of its sinister presence. My mom arranged for a local priest to perform a blessing. Father Thomas arrived a few days later, carrying a Bible and a small vial of holy water. As he entered the house, he paused, his gaze lingering on the game room. "There's something here," he said quietly. "It's restless." The blessing began in the living room and progressed through each room. As Father Thomas reached the game room, the atmosphere grew noticeably colder. The faint green glow returned, pulsing faintly at the window. The priest recited prayers, his voice steady but tense. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the house, as if something had slammed against the game room window. The priest continued his prayers, sprinkling holy water on the walls and floor. When he finished, the air seemed lighter, and the oppressive feeling lifted, at least for the time being. Though the house felt calmer after the blessing, I couldn't shake the memories of what I had seen. I avoided the game room entirely, and my sleep remained restless, haunted by dreams of glowing red eyes and that ghastly smile. A year later, my family moved out of the house, leaving behind its dark history. Though I was relieved to leave, part of me couldn't help but wonder if the man was still there, waiting for someone new to find him. To this day, whenever I think about that winter, a chill runs down my spine. Some things are better left unexplored, hidden in the shadows where they belong. And in that quiet house in Vancouver, I'm certain that the shadows still linger, watching and waiting. The Visits of Darkness. My name is Alex, and my story took place in the suburbs of Toronto, Canada. When I was 25 years old, my family purchased an empty plot of land next to our home to build a garage. At the time, I had no idea this decision would set off a series of events that would haunt me for the rest of my life. The empty plot once held an old, decrepit house that had been destroyed in a fire years ago. Neighbors often whispered about the dark history of the land, but my family didn't pay much attention. To us, it was just an opportunity to expand our property. Construction of the garage began in the summer, and everything seemed to be going smoothly until strange things started happening. The first unusual incident occurred one autumn night. I remember lying in bed, the faint glow of a hallway light casting a dim beam through my slightly ajar door. As I drifted toward sleep, I saw a shadow standing in the doorway. It wasn't an ordinary shadow, it had a misty, shrouded appearance, like a dense black fog. I rubbed my eyes, thinking it was just a trick of my imagination, but the shadow remained. It didn't move or make any noise, yet I felt its gaze locked onto me. My back tingled with a cold sensation, and an inexplicable fear gripped me. Mustering all my courage, I turned on the bedside lamp, and just like that, the shadow vanished. When I told my parents about it, they laughed it off, attributing it to stress or exhaustion. But I knew what I saw was real, and that was only the beginning. Another night, I was fast asleep when I felt my body being lifted off the bed. It didn't feel like a dream. I was fully awake and aware. I opened my eyes to find no one there. Yet the sensation of being suspended in the air persisted for a few seconds before I was dropped abruptly back onto the mattress. Terrified, I jumped up, turned on all the lights, and searched the room. Nothing was out of place. The windows were locked, and there was no sign of an intruder. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what had just happened. But the chilling realization crept in. Something unseen was toying with me. The unsettling events became more frequent. On several occasions, I felt an invisible hand gripping my ankle and pulling me toward the edge of the bed. Sometimes, it felt like a heavy presence was sitting on my chest, accompanied by guttural growls and heavy breathing that sounded right next to my ear. The most horrifying incident occurred one night when I was lying on my stomach. I heard scratching noises coming from the floorboards. The sound grew louder, and I realized something was crawling toward my bed. My body froze in fear. From the corner of my eye, I saw a shadowy figure slithering onto the mattress. A chilling cold spread across my back as the figure pressed against me. Its raspy breathing filled the room, and I was paralyzed, unable to scream or move. It lingered there for what felt like an eternity before disappearing as suddenly as it had come. Believing the house might be the source of these terrifying experiences, I decided to move out when the opportunity arose. 30. I relocated to a small apartment near downtown Toronto, hoping a change of scenery would bring peace. But I was wrong. Within weeks of moving in, the same strange occurrences returned. I would hear faint knocking on the doors, even when no one was outside. And once again, I began seeing the familiar shadowy figure standing at the foot of my bed. The terror from my younger years came rushing back. Stronger than ever, desperate for answers, I reached out to a paranormal investigation group in Toronto. They agreed to visit my apartment and conduct an investigation. After thoroughly inspecting the space, they found no conclusive evidence of supernatural activity. Instead, they suggested I might be experiencing hypnagogic hallucinations, a phenomenon where the brain creates vivid images or sounds during the transition between wakefulness and sleep. While the explanation sounded plausible, I couldn't shake the feeling that what I had experienced was far too vivid and real to be mere hallucinations. Moreover, why were these events happening in multiple locations? Now, at the age of 49, these haunting episodes have significantly diminished, but the memories of those terrifying nights remain vivid. Occasionally, I still dream of the shadowy figure, its icy gaze and oppressive presence haunting me in the darkness. I don't know if it was a supernatural entity or a figment of my imagination, but one thing is certain: those experiences changed my perception of the world forever. The boundary between reality and the unknown is sometimes far thinner than we can comprehend. And every time the night falls, when the lights go out and shadows take over, I still wonder, will they return? Thank you for spending your time with us tonight, exploring these mysterious and spine-chilling stories. If these tales have sparked your curiosity or left you with unforgettable feelings, don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've had similar paranormal experiences that you'd like to share, feel free to send your story to the email address provided in the description. Who knows? Your story might become part of our journey into the spiritual world in a future episode. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our haunting tales. See you in the next episode, and remember, always keep a light by your side.